Welcome to Whips in the Dungeon 101.21. Today's video is on how to crack a single tail or a whip. We've spent 20 videos so far working on different aspects of whips in the dungeon, and now we're going to actually get to the crack. I would ask you to go back and review the video on the shape of the crack. In the shape of the crack, we learned that whips make two basic shapes when they crack. They either roll out in a U shape, and that U shape can be in any geometric form. It can be horizontal, it can be underhand, it can be overhand, it can be backhand, but it makes a U shape and it rolls out into a crack. The other shape it makes is an S shape, and that S shape, we'll typically call that a circus crack or a cattleman's crack. It's going to come up, it's going to make an S shape, and then it's going to roll out. And it'll look something like this. And I missed it. There we go, right there. The S-shaped crack naturally wants to crack about 2/3 of the way down the whip, which in the dungeon is a little problematic because then that means the crack's a couple of feet away from the person you're playing with. And it takes quite a bit of time and technique to learn how to slow that crack down and actually get it on target. So we're going to reserve that crack for intermediate or advanced cracking, and we're going to focus on the overhand crack. If you went to a basic whip cracking workshop, this overhand crack, almost thrown like a baseball, would be the first crack, one of the first cracks you learn, if not the first crack you learn. Notice I'm leaving the whip out. Do not jerk the whip back towards you. If you jerk the whip back towards you, you're going to hit yourself, okay? The other crack that we're going to delay for a while is this cattleman's crack. Now, I've been cracking for 20 years, and I can't just throw a cattleman's crack and get it onto my sheepskin. So I'm going to show you quickly how we do that. The 4 techniques we've taught so far have been the bow and arrow, over the shoulder, horizontal, and what I'm calling the forward figure 8, because there's no reverse crack in it. And the reason we taught that is because in adult learning theory, adults learn new skills quicker by relating them to skills that they already have. So we've used those 4 techniques to throw a flogger, a quirt, a cat, a dragontail, every other impact toy that we've thrown in the dungeon. We've used one of those 4 techniques to throw. So this horizontal throw with the signal whip is a U-shaped crack that rolls out and cracks at the end of it. I'm just throwing it in the horizontal plane. And to get that crack, you end your throw with a little wrist pop or a little wrist snap. Otherwise, you just get a little puff out of it. Okay, when I turn that crack over, I'm either throwing it as a bow and arrow, or I'm coming off my shoulder, or rather than just throw the overhand and then have to recover it and throw it again, I'm going to my forward figure 8, review the video on stall speed, and as the whip comes around on my forehand side, I'm going to stall it, and the longer I stall it before I flick it through, the easier it will be to crack the whip. Now, if we just isolated that for a moment in time, we would just say that that's an overhand crack. Well, it is, but it's how you get to it. Am I going to take a basic whip cracking approach that I have no past experience with, or am I going to relate that crack to the forward figure 8, which I have tons of experience with, and do it off of that stall? Now, if I stall on the backhand side, I'm doing the same thing. I'm recovering on the forehand, stalling on the backhand side, and I'm having all kinds of trouble today. My popper just decided it wanted to knot itself. Okay, so and you could stall forehand and backhand. Now, the funny thing about the cattleman's crack is if I just throw a cattleman's crack, it's going to crack like a couple feet away. If I get my forward figure 8 going and I find the sheepskin forehand and backhand, find the back of my whip catcher, then I can actually do a cattleman's crack, and it naturally catches the sheepskin every time I do it. Go figure that. So that's why we do whips in the dungeon and the techniques that we do. Today's key word is popper.